Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Arsenal. Let's get to the latest transfer news. We have updates on our midfield situation. Fabrizio Romano has given us an update on the guy on the screen, one of the midfield targets that we have. We also have another update. We've been given a prize. The prize has been set for another of our midfield targets. And also, obviously, we'll be talking about Morgan Rogers. It's looking like, in terms of midfield and the left wing, those are the two positions we're really looking at this transfer window. All the updates we've been getting so far, and the transfer window is not even open yet. It's opening next week, but definitely we are going to get players in those positions. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see who stays and who goes, because there's a lot of talk. Even if you just forget about the left wing situation for now, because we've always talked about Trossard and Martinelli and whoever is coming in. The midfield is very, very interesting because Rice is still here, Zubimendi is still here, Nogard is still here, Odegaard is still here, Eze is still here, Merino is still here, and we've seen Havertz playing in that midfield position a few times. And of course, Lewis Skelly played at the end of the season in midfield. If we end up signing Rogers and another deep-lying midfielder, I don't think everyone stays. So out of Nogard, Odegaard, I guess you could even put Merino on that list. I think Merino will definitely stay, but I guess you can just put him on that list. And then if you also add Trossard and Martinelli, out of those like 5 players, I feel like one definitely leaves and maybe even 2. Who knows? It's very hard to predict. I don't know what the plan is for the midfield. Obviously, you have to keep on improving. You have to keep on advancing. You have to keep on upgrading. You can keep the starting lineup as it is. You can keep all the players who are usually in the starting lineup. But even in terms of bench players, you have to keep on upgrading. For example, if Jesus goes and you bring in Krupi, that's a major upgrade because Jesus hasn't really been called up in terms of the first team football, especially when you're going for the title. He wasn't really coming on. Imagine you change Jesus with Krupi. That is a massive upgrade. Now, imagine you do the same in our midfield because Nogard wasn't really being played a lot last season. Imagine we add a player like this one that you're going to talk about right now to replace someone like a Nogard in terms of the squad. That would be absolutely crazy. So Fabrizio said today that Aston made some calls over the recent days for Sandro Tonali. That doesn't look like we're just looking for backups in that midfield as well, because those names that we are hearing, names like Tonali, that is a player that you can easily see starting for us. He's been at Newcastle for 3 seasons. The first season he was banned. He didn't play a lot. But the second and the third seasons for Newcastle, he's played. He's featured in almost every single Premier League game. Obviously, he has the European experience for Newcastle and from his previous team, AC Milan. So he's a player who's been there and done it. And he's not just a 6. Tonali is not just 6. He's a player who can also play as an 8. He plays the deep lying creative. I don't want to compare him to Jorginho, but he used to be compared to Pirlo when he used to play for AC Milan. He used to be compared to Pirlo, and that I think is his mentor. They usually call him the new Pirlo, the style of play. He can pass from that midfield, and he can control everything. So slightly almost the same as what Jorginho used to be, that deep-lying creative midfield in the 6th position. But he can also play as the 8, and I've seen him scoring some goals for Newcastle, playing as a box-to-box in some games. And he has the intelligence of playing that midfield role. Every team usually needs a player like that, whether it's Tonali, whether it's Vitinha, whether it's a Jorginho. Everyone really needs a player like that. Now, our player who is supposed to be that is Zubimendi, and he was very good for us for 3/4 of the season until he got really, really tired, and Rice got really, really tired, and then we had to survive from February all the way to May. We had to survive with the injuries and the players being tired. We just had to survive. So every time when Zubimendi got tired, it became a problem because Arteta didn't really trust Nogard to play that role. You can't really take Zubimendi out and play Nogard as the deep-lying playmaker from the 6. That will not work. So we had to change things. We actually had to change things. At that point on, we started conceding a lot of goals and all that, and we had to change up stuff, bring Rice back to the 6, and there's 2-3 different kind of 6s you can play. You can play the one who's just creative and all, like a Jorginho. You can play the one who's aggressive and all, like like a Roy Keane or Vieira, or you can play someone like a Rice, so you can carry the ball and make those tackles and everything. It depends on which kind of team you want and which kind of manager you are, and who fits your team best. Like Before Busquets for Barcelona, they didn't really have a player like that. It used to be Xavi, Iniesta, and someone else, and then they brought in Busquets, and Busquets used to play that deep line role for them. But there's other teams that have Kante and stuff like that. So for us, Rice is the guy that is going to make the tackles and all that in midfield. Zubimendi can also do the same, and Tonali can also do the same. But Tonali it'd be an incredible signing. If we ended up getting a Tonali at Arsenal, he would be an absolutely incredible signing because he can do all of that and more, and he can also play the 8 position. And who knows, we've also seen players like Marine and Rice playing in the 10 for us in a couple of games, depending on what game it is. So this would be absolutely, I'm thinking right now, imagine you have a midfield of Zubimendi, Tonali, Rice, Lewis Skelly, Odegaard, Eze, and probably Morgan Rogers and Merino. That is absolutely exciting, man. Very, very exciting because you have different, what's the word? You know what word I'm looking for. You have different, basically CVs. You have different kind of midfielders. They're players who can play different roles. You have a player for every single task that you're going to have in that season. If you have a midfield like that, you can go to a Carabao Cup match against. I don't know if None is going to be here as well. You could go to a Carabao Cup match against championship team, and you could have a midfield of Zubimendi, Eze, and Odegaard. That could be a midfield. And that is, you've rested Tonali in that situation, you've rested Rice in that situation. That would be incredible. So this is one to look at for sure, but it's definitely not going to be cheap. If you're going to get Tonali from Newcastle, it's not going to be cheap. It's probably going to cost you more than 75 million. Not cheap at all. He's 26 years of age, so the kind of age that we have around that, a lot of our players, the Rices and the Gabriels and all those guys, between 24 and 28, we have a lot of those players. So this would be an exciting signing. But it's not the only midfielder we've been linked to, and it's not the only midfielder who's going to cost a lot of money. Now, we have an update on Mateus Fernandes from Fabrizio Romano, a player that is obviously wanted by Man United, but is a player that is definitely linked to Arsenal. And this price here, 85 million, makes me believe that West Ham know there's a lot of teams that want him and they're trying to take advantage. Fabrizio says, understand Mateus Fernandes' price tag has been fixed by West Ham in a meeting with this camp, and it's 85 million. Man United in contact with the player's side, more clubs also attentive and keen. Football is crazy right now. The football is crazy. Mateus Fernandes for 85 million. It feels like even me and you, if we started playing football today, tomorrow a team would want us. And if a team would want us tomorrow, we go for nothing less than 20 million, even after playing football for one day. That's how crazy it is right now. Like, West Ham have been relegated, but Fernandes is still going to cost a lot of money, 85 million. Now, do I think Mateus Fernandes is Arsenal's biggest target? I don't think so. I think if you ask me, I think Tonali is one that is wanted the most. I've heard that Andrea Bata really, really likes Tonali as well, and I'm sure that kind of player would like him as well. So I feel like Tonali would be top of our list. Mateus Fernandes, I feel like could be, he's younger. I don't think it's top of our list, but I think it's a let's see kind of situation from Arsenal. Might netted a link to him more, but that price is very, very scary. Not just the two teams. I'm sure there's other teams as well that are linked to Mateus Fernandes. He obviously missed that big chance against us at the end of last season. If he scored that, we'd not have been celebrating a Premier League title. Maybe, who knows? We ended up finishing 7 points ahead, but that was big. But overall in the season, he was quite good for West Ham at that age. He's quite good. But I usually, and I'm sure we're also looking for players who've been in the Premier League for a couple of seasons and been doing it. And Tonali has been there for 3 years. Not sure how long Mateus Fernandes has been there, and I'm not sure it's too long. Last season is when that he really, really emerged. So that's one to keep an eye on. And those are not the only midfielders we're looking at as well. As it's confirmed here by AFC Amden, Arsenal interested in a number of Premier League midfielders, not just midfielders from outside the country. It's literally Premier League midfielders looking for players who bring a more vertical dynamic to the team. Rogers a firm target, but would not be surprised if we end up signing a couple of top Premier League players. Arteta values proven English and Premier League talent. So all of those players we've been linked to. So here links to another one is I don't know if I have it here. It's Adam Scott. Adam Scott is the other one that we also really like from Bournemouth. He absolutely destroyed us when he played them at the Emirates Stadium. Adam Scott destroyed us. So those kind of midfielders is what we're looking for. Tonali, Adam Scott. Fernandes. It depends on what idea we're looking for, what role we're looking for in that midfield. So it's going to be interesting. Speaking of Morgan Rogers, what's the latest on him? Now, Goldberg is more focused on Chelsea, but he was right. I mean, on Havertz coming to Arsenal, he was right on Rice coming to Arsenal, and he was replying to a Chelsea fan here, and he said, "No, Morgan Rogers wants Arsenal over Chelsea." So that's one to also definitely keep an eye on. We've been hearing a lot about Morgan Rogers recently. We saw him with Eze and the likes of Madueke in training, so hopefully they can convince him to join Arsenal. This is a player I absolutely want at Arsenal. Morgan Rogers, absolutely want him at Arsenal. I would not say no to Morgan Arsenal to Arsenal. Morgan Rogers to Arsenal, absolutely. I'm even calling him Morgan Arsenal. Like he needs to be an Arsenal player. That would be crazy. I'm imagining that team with all of those players. Because even we were looking at our bench in that Champions League, there's a lot of players that we could have brought on, Even players like Merino didn't even get on the pitch. And so if you want to go further in the Champions League again, if you want to retain the Premier League, if you want to go further in the cup competitions as well, you need a squad. Even with 3-4 injuries at some point, you need, players who you can bring on. We were well equipped this season. We got a lot of injuries, but we were still well equipped. But because, players like Jesus will leave and stuff like that, you need to keep on improving the team. So we lost Odegaard for a long time, but we had Eze. We even lost Eze twice in the season, but we had Odegaard. We even lost Odegaard at the beginning of the season. We had Nwaneri. We lost Gyökeres for a few games. Havertz was back, luckily. We lost Madueke for like 2 months. Saka was there. Saka was out. Madueke was there. Gabriel was out for like a month. Saliba was out at the beginning of the season after the Liverpool game. Timber had been out, but White came back, so we were well equipped during the season. We need to do the same. Speaking of injuries, unfortunately, Jurriën Timber will not be playing at the World Cup. According to Netherlands and the Dutch team, the 24-year-old defender has not recovered sufficiently from a groin injury to take part in the World Cup in a medically responsible manner. In consultation with the medical staff, it has therefore been decided that Timber will leave the national team's pre-camp in New York after the game against Uzbekistan. I just saw that game. I didn't even realize it was in the big screen. The Netherlands just won 2, and I think Gakpo scored both goals. So Timber is leaving now after that game, which is already over. Listen, from Arsenal point of view, we get a well-rested Timber next season. I would have loved him to be at the World Cup. Obviously, that is a goal for most of the players, him training that hard and all that, and trying to come back for Arsenal's run in the Champions League final and the World Cup for Netherlands. It would have been great for him, but he's going to miss out. But if we look at it as Arsenal fans, we're going to have a well-rested Jurriën Timber, and Calafiori is obviously not going to the World Cup as well. So you're going to have Timber and Calafiori well-rested. And we need that. There's been injury issues with both players. We need both of them rested. And then we see how the likes of Gabriel and Nkapie and Saliba do at the World Cup and the rest of the players. So this is bad news for Timber, but hopefully he can now rest and recover, because he's had a lot of injuries this past season. And in the 23-24 season when he got the ACL, I always say if Timber was there, we would have won the league that season. Those goals we were conceding at the end of that season, we would have won the league. And if he was there, the Champions League final, that game would have ended 1-0. So we need him. We need him fit. He's a very, very good player, the best right back last season, but let's see what happens. But that's the latest news. Let me know what you make of all that. A lot of talk in terms of midfield and left wing. And David Ornstein, by the way, also said there's a word used. David Ornstein used the word. There's a word used, but it's not even excellent. Let me just let me do this. Let me tell you guys what word he used. Where is he? David Ornstein. Let me tell you what word he used, what term he used in terms of our transfers this season. So first he said they have which Premier League club are you expected to do the most business this summer? He said they all have different requirements, but I think Arsenal will do some eye-catching business. That's the word, eye-catching business. Last transfer window was fun. I think this is also going to be fun. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch up with you guys on the next one.